Assassin's Creed is an open-world action-adventure game developed and published by Ubisoft in 2007. This game tells the story of two main characters from two different time periods, Desmond Miles and Altair ibn Lahad. Desmond is an American bartender that was kidnapped by a group called the Templars and forced into a machine called the Animus, which allowed him to relive the genetic memories of his ancestor, Altair. This brings us to the broader story, which takes place in the Holy Land during the 12th century. Altair is a Levantine assassin who spent his whole life serving his master Al-Mualim. Over the years, he rose up the ranks and became a master assassin. His rank's superiority also made him very arrogant and overconfident. During a very important mission, he broke his creed's three tenets, resulting in the siege of Masyaf, the base of operations for the assassins. Altair was later stripped of his rank and tasked with the assassination of 9 men, in an attempt for redemption. In this essay, I will be analyzing my attraction towards Assassin's Creed through the lens of Lacan's theory of desire and embodiment, and Jung's theory of the shadow. Lacan describes man's desire as the want for something else, which is the recognition from this other, and the desire for what we believe this other desires. This other can be defined in two ways. It can be defined as another person, our counterpart or semblable, or it can be defined as an unknown entity with unknown desires, and we are on a constant quest to find it. Altair was born in the Brotherhood of Assassins, and since birth, his desires were founded around the recognition and satisfaction of his master's desires. On the contrary, Desmond, who was also born in the Brotherhood, wanted to live a life of his own. Therefore, he left the Brotherhood on a path for self-discovery, without knowing his purpose or desires, but drawn forward like a moth to a distant moon. By having two main characters that embodies the desires of both types of others, the game creates a bridge between the two and places the player on it, exposed to the contradicting desires of the two. As someone who was born in an Asian family, my superego, which Freud describes as your moral values, was shaped by the ideologies of the traditional Eastern culture. From a young age, just like Altair, I was programmed to be part of the collective unconscious of satisfying the expectation of my Asian parents, who wanted me to become an engineer. I did just that, but as time went on, I was exposed to the Western ideology of one's own choice, being given preference over the family's. I felt envy, and the desire to choose my own career was pulled from my shadow and revived. As Desmond was trying to find the desires of his other, I was left with this question. What do I really want to become in the future? Embodiment is the way we project ourselves on other characters to the point that we start describing ourselves as that character. Castellani describes it as a situation when a participant feels the same emotions as his or her character and assumes that character's personality. Altair's over-obsession with pleasing Al-Mualim's desires manifested his shadow in the form of arrogance and overconfidence. He disregarded the ways of an assassin and only focused on his goal, believing that the situation will go his way. It didn't. I closely relate to Altair because I was also obsessed with satisfying the expectations of my parents. My engineering studies went well, and I grew overconfident. I would disregard my parents' advice on industry networking, believing that I wouldn't need it, that I was good enough to be hired by anyone. And just like Altair, I plummeted, and we both went on a journey of self-discovery and faced the same enemy, our shadows. Jung describes the shadow as the unconscious aspect of the personality, a part of ourselves that is rejected by our persona. The failure to identify, recognize, and engage with our shadows is often the origin of problems between individuals and groups.
But you, my son, have not found inner peace. It manifests in ugly ways. You are arrogant and overconfident.
Altair and my obsession for recognition allowed our shadows to overwhelm our sense of rationality. Our journey for self-discovery then allowed us to explore and confront our shadows in the more conscious aspect of our psyche, to explore the source of our behavior and to become aware of our potential for both good and evil as human beings, as we use that knowledge to continuously walk forward and choose the right path. Altair accepted that there were other desires within him, allowing him to see the world differently, including the good and bad within himself and the assassin order. I, on the other hand, explored the source of my shadow and the deepest part of my desire. I then confronted my parents to become a game developer while trying to make them proud for me being one. I combined the desires of my parents and the desires of my shadows. The reason why I enjoy Assassin's Creed is because it presents two characters with contrasting desires that I can relate to. It is more than a game to me. It allows me to relive the journey of my fall, my struggles and my redemption through the embodiment of Altair, whose shadow and desires mirrors mine. It acts as a beacon of light should I fall back to my old ways, should I fall back into the darkness.